Halloween is right around the corner, so I put together a quick, simple menu for all of the trick-or-treaters in your life. We're going to be making super cute little meatball marinara sandwiches, spooky punch, and Boo-Nana popsicles. They're really simple recipes, tasty and wholesome right before you're going out for a full night of candy. Stick around for those recipes when we get back.
Hi, I'm Laura Will. I'm a wife, a mom, a blogger, and a busy bakery owner. I'm also a self-taught home cook, baker, and cake decorator all wrapped into one. My food style is easy and delicious. With the combination of whole foods and my quick tips and tricks, you too can cook the Scratch Made Simple way.
Starting with is our Boo-Nana popsicles. These are really simple and really easy to make. So I put parchment paper on a tray because we're going to be popping these in the freezer, so that's why we're going to start with these first. So I'm just going to peel my bananas, and then depending on how many people you're making these for, one banana will make 4 little popsicles. So you just grab a knife and you're going to cut it in half like this, and then I like to cut mine down the middle because we're going to be dipping these in white chocolate to make them look like little ghosts, and then you can scrape the chocolate easily off the bowl in the back of this and it'll lay nice and flat on your little tray. So these are going to be your little ghosts. And since you're going to be going out and getting tons of candy and everything, the whole point of this meal is to be simple and cute, a little Halloween themed dinner, but nothing that's going to be, you know, we want to kind of offset the candy. So we're just going to do a little bit of fruit, a little bit of chocolate too, not a lot, but you can also do this another night. You don't have to save it for trick-or-treating night, but any kind of Halloween party or get-together, even office parties, school things that you're doing for the holiday, these are kind of fun to do. So I'm just going to cut this in half. And then I recommend having popsicle sticks, but what I have on hand is skewers. So anything that you can get to go into your little banana piece here will work just fine. See how it's splitting it a teeny bit? It's a little bit easier if you have a popsicle stick because it's nice and flat, but these will work today, so that's okay. I'm just going to put all of these sticks through my bananas, and then pop these in the freezer to get nice and cold. You want to put them in the freezer because it's going to be a lot easier to dip these in your warm chocolate. And if they're just fresh like this, they can kind of wilt and it's a little bit hard to get them to stay. So that's why I like to start with something real nice and cold. Here we go. So now that I have all these halved and skewered, I'm going to pop them in the freezer for at least 10-15 minutes, maybe a little longer. You kind of want to let them get almost solid. That way when we're putting them in the chocolate, like I said, we'll have time for them to be hard and not fall apart. All right, next we're going to start with our meatballs. So you're going to grab a nice big bowl, and I have a pound of ground beef here and a pound of pork. That's what I like to use as a mixture. And if you're watching calories and everything, you can kind of use a leaner beef, but I like to have some fat content because that makes for a much better meatball flavor. That's why I like to have the pork as well. So what we're gonna start with is sauteing some onions. I'm gonna grab a pot and we'll put a little bit of extra virgin olive oil in. About a tablespoon or 2 will work for that. And I'm going to be sauteing these onions first to put in the meatballs. Now, if you want to use raw onions in your meatballs, you definitely can. I just like to take the extra step of roasting them because I'm going to be building really good flavor in my meatballs. I like to have a roasted onion flavor rather than just raw mixed in with my meat. So that's kind of the first step I like to do. And then we're going to be cooking our meatballs in this pot, and then we're going to be making our marinara sauce in this pot as well. So whenever you do that, take the time to build all of those nice flavors. You'll really taste them through the dish, and it'll go a long way and make a big difference in the flavor of your dish. All right, so I have 1 small onion. That's good enough because we're not going to need to do a ton. So you can just do a quick dice on these. I'm going to put all of these diced onions in my pot. It's on a medium to high heat. You don't want them to be too hot. Don't put them on high. You don't want these to get too brown. You're just kind of sauteing these to release all of the natural juices and sweetness of this onion. I'm going to put about a tablespoon of butter in too. That's just going to be another flavor element that will be delicious for your meatballs. So you don't need a ton. A little bit goes a long way, but I always kind of like to do a mixture of butter and oil whenever I'm cooking. So you're just going to stir these in together. Let that all melt. All right, and you're gonna wanna liberally salt this and put some pepper in too. Your meatballs, it's gonna be a lot of meat. You want to have a nice bit of flavoring all throughout it. So when you take the time to do this in stages, it'll really help make those nice and flavorful, rather than just a little ball of meat that's not very tasty. You wanna do these things to make it really nice and flavorful. All right, so I put fresh cracked black pepper and some salt. And I'm just gonna stir this in, and we're gonna let these saute on a medium to low heat. Again, you're not browning these too much. You just want to saute them, sweat the onions a little bit, and they'll be good. So we'll let that cook a while, and then we're going to start with our meat. So you are going to get a pound of ground beef. You can kind of break this up a little bit with your fingers. Put it in a nice big bowl. And then I have a pound of ground pork as well. If you want to switch this up and do turkey and everything, you can totally substitute your meat. That's okay. This is what I like to use just because when I'm making something with red meat like this, it's kind of imperative for you to have some fat in this to make them flavorful. It will really add to your meatballs. So this is nice and broken up like that. I'm going to rinse my hands real quick here. And then you're going to take about a cup of breadcrumbs. So I'm going to get my measuring cup out. And the beauty of this too is if these get a little too wet or a little too dry, you can always kind of add what you need into these. So I'm just going to grab these and pour them in like this. All right. I like to use panko breadcrumbs just because they're nice and crispy. If you don't have breadcrumbs on hand, you can just toast some stale bread or grind that up with a food processor. You could use crackers. Whatever you've got in the kitchen will work. Just something to kind of make a binder for this is what you need. So then I'm going to crack 2 eggs and put them in here as well. Just like that. 1, 2. And then I'm going to grab some fresh grated Parmesan cheese from the fridge. This will add another delicious element of flavor to your meatballs. I love Parmesan cheese. It is tasty, really good. If you sprinkle a little more in, it won't hurt anything. It'll be just as tasty. So I like to pile mine in like that. And then of course you're going to want to put some fresh cracked black pepper. I like a lot of pepper, so I put quite a bit in. And again, this is going to be a lot of meatballs, so you want to distribute this all the way through your meat mixture. Get your salt. By the time this is all said and done, I'm probably putting at least a good tablespoon of salt in here. There we go. Want that to go all through. And then what I like to do is I like to put some fresh Italian herbs in my meatballs. So I've got a little bit of thyme. I've got a little bit of oregano, and oregano smells so good. It's delicious. And then I have a little bit of flat leaf Italian parsley. So those are your like quintessential Italian seasoning that you want to do. I always like to kind of pull my leaves off like this with the stems. And I just kind of discard those and keep the leaves. I do the same thing a little bit with my thyme. I'm going to do a quick rough chop of this Italian parsley, and then I'm going to do a little rough chop of this delicious oregano. And these fresh herbs will go a long way in your meatballs, I promise. They'll taste really good. And they're super cute too. We're going to be putting these in a little Italian loaf sandwiches and putting mozzarella over top of them and little black olives as eyes, and they look just like little mummies and they're really cute. And obviously it's fun for Halloween because what kid's not going to want to eat a cute little mummy sub. Alright, so I'm just going to dig my hands in here and mix it. Oh, what I forgot to do. You want to get a little bit of moisture. I almost forgot. You can use water, you can use beef stock, you can use milk, whatever you want. It doesn't matter. I'm going to use milk, but you can use a little bit. You don't want super dry meatballs, so you just need to put a little bit of moisture in there to mix up to help do that. So if they're even a little wet, that's okay. That's fine. They can be like that. And then I'm going to check my onions. So see how these are starting to get translucent? They're just about on the edge where they're going to be browning. Like this, that's how you want them to look. All right, so these onions look perfect. They're exactly where I want them to look. So I'm going to turn off the heat, and then I'm going to get a slotted spoon because I don't want to take all of this oil out. I want to start frying my meatballs in that oil and butter mixture that will have nice oniony flavor in it. It's kind of like what I was talking about, building all of those layers of flavor. When you're frying or cooking stuff up, if you can use those little bits in your pan, they're so yummy. You want to keep them. All right, so I'm gonna put these onions in a little dish over here. I'm not gonna put them in my meat right away because they're gonna be really warm. You don't wanna burn your hands, obviously. So I'm just gonna let them sit. If you have a couple onions still kind of sitting here, that's totally okay. That'll fry up in your meatballs and sauce and be really tasty. So I'll let those sit and cool off a bit. Bring them over here. And then I'm just gonna dig right in and slowly put all of these mixtures. You're kind of almost gonna wanna fold them. You don't want to over mix your meat because you don't want it to get tough. That will make your meatballs tough. So you're just going to kind of gently fold and kind of mash these together. So it can take a little bit. It can be quite a process till you get all your meat mixture. But what you really want to do is evenly distribute all of these breadcrumbs and herbs and flavors, salt and pepper. Just like that. All right, so now that my onions are cooled off and this meat mixture is a little bit stirred together, I'm going to dump all of those in there. And then I'm going to put in some garlic as well. So you're putting in about a tablespoon, maybe a little bit more. If you like garlic a lot like I do, I put quite a bit in. And I love, you can use fresh garlic. Fresh garlic is delicious, but just because I'm kind of busy, I like to keep a little minced jar in the fridge at all times because it's easier for me to just have this on hand. So that's typically what I use. So if we're doing minced garlic, about a tablespoon or two is good. So now we're going to rework this back in, evenly distribute your onions and your garlic. And make sure, like I said, you're trying not to overmix this too much. You want to be kind of pull it up from the bottom and just kind of fold it over. Because if you're just kind of mashing this like crazy, your meat's going to get kind of tough. If you feel like this is not quite moist enough, you can also put a little bit more liquid in, just so you're not going to have little dry cooked up meatballs. So this looks good to me. I think everything looks pretty evenly distributed. So what I'm going to do then is just kind of grab a little portion like this, and you're just going to kind of roll it together like this in your hands. You kind of want it to be the size of a little bit bigger than a golf ball. That's how I like to do mine. I like, you know, bigger meatballs, and they are going to cook down when you're cooking these, so they're going to fry a little smaller than you're originally making the meatballs. So keep that in mind whenever you're trying to get kind of the accurate size of what you prefer. I wish you could smell this. You can smell the herbs, you can smell the garlic and the roasted onion, the Parmesan. These are so tasty, and it's nice because if you're doing this on trick-or-treating night, trick-or-treating night actually falls on a Friday night this year, which is kind of fun, because if you're going out, staying out late with the kids, trick-or-treating, you can do this beforehand. The meatballs aren't going to take too long, and the whole point of this is just to be themed for Halloween and cute little mummies in a bun for your family to eat, and you know, kind of offset all of the sugary treats they're about to get later. All right, so this is what your meatballs can look like. They're a good size. I'm gonna finish patting these out. We're gonna go on a quick break, and I'll start frying these up when we get back. And I will see you in just a bit back in the kitchen. Alright, now that I'm finished cooking all of these meatballs, I'm going to take them all out and let them rest, and then we're going to start our sauce in the exact same pan. We have all of these tasty, delicious drippings. That is going to be a delicious base for your sauce, so you don't want to get rid of that. You want to keep it. And basically what I did with those, as you just saw, was I fried them all up. I browned them on both sides really well, and then to cook the middles, because it is beef and pork, it's red meat, you want to make sure the middles are all the way cooked through. You're going to set your setting to low and put a lid on and let them simmer for a good 5-10 minutes until all of the centers are cooked. And if you don't know if the center is cooked, just cut one in half. If it's pink, just put it back in with the lid. and it'll create a steam with its own juices and it'll be good to go. So that's what I like to do with mine. Sometimes people like to put them in the oven and bake them off. You can do that if you want to brown them and bake them in the oven. That works too. You could put them in for about 350, 375, maybe about 15, 20 minutes. They would be fine. They don't have to be on a super high heat. But this is just the way I like to do mine. Keep it all in the same pot, keep all the same flavors going. So now I just have another small onion. I'm gonna put this in and start frying this up. You're gonna put this on a medium-high heat. It doesn't, maybe medium-low. It doesn't have to be too hot. We just wanna start sweating these onions again. All right, I'm gonna put these in and get a nice wooden spoon. We're gonna start stirring this all through here. We've got all these nice tasty bits that came from all of these onions and the meatballs, and that is gonna be so good in your marinara sauce. I wish you could smell it in the kitchen. It's just the whole room is flooded with delicious Italian herbs and garlic and butter and onions. It smells like heaven. All right, so I'm gonna let that start simmering. I'm gonna salt this a little bit. Doesn't need a whole ton because you're gonna have a lot of flavor in that pan that cooked off of those meatballs. Put a little bit of fresh cracked black pepper. And then I'm gonna get a little bit of minced garlic again. We're just gonna kind of sweat this garlic, probably about a tablespoon. Just like that. Make sure we're getting our pan up hot enough here. And then what I'm gonna do is I stir this in. Now you're just gonna wanna let these start simmering a little bit, sizzling. Just a few minutes will go a long way. Okay, so now that we have our onions and our garlic simmering, I'm just putting in a whole big can of crushed tomatoes, just like that. I'm gonna stir this in, and then I'm gonna pour another big can in. This is about 12 to 16 ounce cans, just enough that you have sauce for your meatballs. And also, if you aren't making these for mummies, guys, put this on pasta. It would be delicious. Meatballs and marinara. You could even just put this in the crock pot. You could do this the night before, do all these steps, and if you want to put it in the fridge and then have it warming up in the crock pot for Halloween night, you could totally do that. Whatever's easiest. All right, so I'm going to let this simmer a little bit. I've got this on a low heat, and then we're going to put in some Parmesan cheese. So I'm going to sprinkle in anywhere from about a half cup to a cup. Got a good amount there. This is pretty salty, so you're going to want to be tasting this as you go. If it feels a little too salty, we'll probably put a little bit of sugar in just to balance this out and kind of take some of the acidity and the kick, like kind of the bite out of these fresh tomatoes. That'll balance your flavors. So I'm gonna get some fresh cracked black pepper, like that, and then I actually will grab my sugar so I can put a little bit in here because I know I'm definitely gonna need some. Any kind of tomato-based sauce I use, I always put a little bit of sugar to kind of take that bite off like I mentioned. All right, so I'm gonna stir this in. This is pretty quick. I mean, once you've got your onions a little bit sauteed and you're putting in this tomato sauce, it's good to go. The longer it simmers, the more flavorful it's gonna get. So if you wanna leave that on the stovetop, it'll get nice and delicious as it keeps cooking. So I have some fresh basil here as well. I'm just gonna pull my leaves off like this, and we're gonna do a little quick chop to put this fresh basil. I love fresh basil. All right, so I'm just going to chop up my basil and give it a little rough chop and throw this right here in the pot. Sprinkle that right in. All right, now that I have all my basil in, I'm just gonna stir this in. Oops, and then you're gonna be careful when you're stirring because it can very easily come out of your pot. This is going to be a stage where I'm going to definitely taste my sauce. You're gonna wanna keep adding sugar and salt as you're getting a nice balance of flavor. If it's too tangy, put a little bit more sugar. If it's not salty enough, put a little bit more salt. It can be stages and stuff, but if you wanna just make sure it's not too hot. And it is perfect. Oh, it's so good. Oh, you can taste all of the garlic and the onions, and because you left the fat of the meat there and the nice oil and the butter, all of that's through your sauce. It's so good. It's so much better taking the time to add all those elements of flavor than just dumping cans of, you know, crushed tomato in your pot. A little bit of flavor goes a long way. So I'm just gonna nestle our delicious little meatballs in this marinara sauce. We're gonna keep it on a nice low heat. You're not really doing anything. You're not trying to cook anything anymore. Now that these guys are all nice and cooked through, we are just going to put these in the pot just like this. All right, so now that I have all my meatballs in my pot, I'm gonna put my lid on and just let this simmer. It's good to go on low heat. It can sit there for a while. Like I said, the flavors will build and be delicious, so it's good. So now I microwave some white chocolate chips in the microwave. They're nice and melty. Just do it for about a minute, minute and a half, and this is exactly the consistency you want it to be. And now that my little banana popsicles are frozen, it's just these halved bananas. I'm gonna pull these out of the freezer. And they're nice and solid, so it's gonna be a lot easier to dip these now that they're solid in this warm chocolate. So you just wanna kind of stir it around just like this. You can kind of smear the chocolate on your banana, and then you're gonna turn it around. And if it's not exactly perfect, that's totally okay. You just wanna cover it enough that you're getting this to be completely white, like this. And you'll get it on the back. And then what you're gonna do, once you get these covered, is you are going to kind of like to just scrape it like that on the bowl a little bit to make sure it's nice. And just like that, it's gonna be a little cute little ghost. So I'm gonna put it back on my parchment paper. That'll help it not stick. And then what you do is you take 2 little mini chocolate chips, and it's gonna make little ghost eyes. When I drop this, it will fix that, but take a little mini chocolate chip, we'll put it right there, and right there. So simple, but how cute is that? He looks like a little ghost. So I'm just gonna go down the line and cover all of these guys, and then what we'll do is just pop them back in the fridge as soon as we're finished. And you don't have to put them back in the freezer because you don't want them to be rock solid. You just wanna let your chocolates sit. So I'm gonna finish these up. We're gonna go on a quick break, and I will finish assembling all of these and pop them in the fridge. And then when we get back, I will show you how to assemble the cute little meatball marinara mummies sandwiches, and then we'll start a spooky punch to go along with everything else. Alright, welcome back guys. I am just now dicing up, well not quite dicing, I'm kind of making long strips of mozzarella because this is going to be our mummy wrappings for our meatball mummy subs. So I'm just doing nice long strips. I got a nice long piece of fresh mozzarella at the store so I can kind of mimic the strips like I was talking about. If you just have shredded mozzarella on hand that you want to sprinkle over top, you can do that, but I just like the way this looks, and I also love the taste of fresh mozzarella. There's nothing better than a big nice piece of that that's fresh, and whole milk mozzarella is so creamy and good, and it tastes so good on top of fresh meatballs and marinara. So I think I have plenty of cheese for this, so then we're gonna make sure that our, oh, you can smell it immediately as soon as you take the lid off, it's so good. So we got this nice big pot of meatballs and marinara sauce, and what I did over the break as well was I just got some nice little Italian loaves of bread and I just toasted them under the broiler. I put a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, and this is all you need. Is these are going to be your little mummy men. So I kind of like to just smush them down a little bit so I can kind of get my meatballs to be in these like almost like a little boat type of shape. So I'm going to do that a little bit, and then we're going to take our meatballs and we're gonna just put them one by one on these little breads, just like that. Okay, and then if you don't get to quite use all of this sauce, you can save this for pasta the next day, whatever you wanna do. I promise anybody coming to your house for dinner on Halloween night for these little mummy sandwiches are gonna be very pleased. They're super tasty. All right, so you wanna kinda get them even like this. Just like that, and I'm gonna go down the line and fill all these with meatballs real quick. I'm just gonna move my pot out of the way here and get all my little meatballs. They're all in the subs now. So then what you're gonna do is you're gonna go through and you're gonna lay little mozzarella strips just like your little mummy wrappings, like that. And what we're gonna do then, you wanna overlap some to kind of make them look like little mummy wrappings. And then what I like to do is take 2 little black olives to be your eyes for your mummies. And then they look like little guys. And then you're gonna put a little piece up here over top, and basically that's it. So we've got these fresh little mozzarella strips that we put over top. Now I'm just gonna pop these in the broiler real quick whenever I'm done. You wanna keep an eye on them because you don't wanna burn them. You just wanna get them a little bit brown. And this looks good to me. All right, and we'll put some more little black olives right there for our eyeballs. All right, so we are going to go on a quick break. I'm gonna pop our little mummies in the broiler and melt their little cheese ropes over them, and then we will whip up a batch of Spooky Punch. You don't wanna miss that. It's really tasty and really cute. I will see you in the kitchen when we get back. All right, welcome back. We're just about to pull our little meatball marinara mummy sandwiches out, and oh my goodness, they are so cute and they smell great. All right, here they are. They have their little mummy wrappings of mozzarella, little black olive eyes. Doesn't get any cuter or tastier than that. So now we're gonna whip up a quick batch of Spooky Punch. It is so good, you will love it, I promise. So you get a nice big black cauldron from a party store, 2 containers of rainbow sherbet, and then 1 to 2 liters of your favorite lemon lime soda, depending on how much punch you're serving. One to 2 drops of green food coloring to give it a nice bright green color. Stir it in. Handful of gummy worms. And then just for fun, eyeballs from a party supply store. All right, and then you just get your little punch cup. Make sure you get an eyeball or 2. That's a great effect for your Spooky Punch. And it is so cute, and it tastes delicious too. I love this stuff. All right, this is pretty sweet. But here's the good news. There's no caffeine in Sprite or lemon lime soda, so it'll kind of, counterbalance the sugar rush that the kids are gonna get on Halloween night. But again, maybe you can schedule a different night. But this is a super cute party punch. And it looks so cute with all of the green froth and the little eyeballs and stuff for Halloween. We will have all of these recipes on the website. It is still at scratchmadesimple.com where we have the blog. And then also a really great place to look is the Facebook page, facebook.com/scratchmadesimple. I will have pictures and instructions on how to make all of these. So this is our party spread, guys, our little meatball marinara subs, our Boo-Nanas, and our little Spooky Punch. It's a cute Halloween spread. It's not too hard to make, and all of the loved ones in your life celebrating Halloween with you will love it. Pardon me, I'm gonna have a Boo-Nana. I will see you guys in the kitchen next week. Happy Halloween. That was good.